Hello, this is Jack Olmstead, GMO Free News. I'm here again with Melissa Mays. She is the founder of What Are We Fighting For? How are you doing, Melissa?
Good. Glad to always come back.
I always start off with the camera on the other person, but here I am. I'm a real person. My lips do move. And today is a relatively slow day for you, Melissa, because of the weather conditions in Flint, Michigan. Can you give us a little weather report? I think you have done everything on camera now except the weather report.
You are correct. I think I also talked about traffic. So yeah, today woke up, well, I couldn't sleep. I'm having stomach problems. And so I'm like, okay, 5:30, I get a text that my kids are out of school because once again, we went from being 50 degrees to a blizzard. So the bipolar state that we live in is, yep, there's off my front porch. So the kids are all home and it's supposed to be 60 degrees again by like this weekend. Yeah, it's a little confusing. It's like last week we had this on Thursday, and Wednesday and Thursday they're like, hey, you know, it was really hot out. Now here's 10 inches of snow. Enjoy. So that's what we're dealing with right now.
Is this normal, or is this because you have lead in your water?
Maybe Mother Nature felt bad for us for having such contaminated water. She thought she'd dump a bunch of snow on us so we can melt it and have something safer to drink.
You want water, you got water.
Here's your water. You didn't want any more bottles. Here you go. Boom. So, yeah. Well, in all seriousness, though, the last 2 winters, a lot of people collected snow and put it in their water heaters, which isn't really safe, but they said it was way safer than what was coming in from the city. So, you know, hopefully people can put it to good use, but I don't recommend that because, you know, it can be very, very dangerous. You don't want to be opening up your water heater. So, yeah, there's videos all over the place on safe ways to do it.
Really, I was wondering, how do you put snow in a water heater?
I've only had to deal with our water heaters breaking and busting out the bottom and catching on fire. I haven't opened one up to put stuff in it. So, but apparently there are ways, but there's also a lot of dangers with that too. So people need to do it the right way if they're going to do it at all, or just stick with bottled water.
So you kind of open up a can of worms here when you're talking about your water heater. Your water heater is connected to your plumbing. You had a plumber in your house yesterday. Is that it?
Yeah. Well, I want an idea of what it's going to cost to put, you know, a water treatment system in my house if I ever get my taxes done, which today I'm going to do that today. I haven't started, so I have to work on my mileage and all this other stuff. But today. So I was like, well, I want to get an idea from a treatment company of how much it's going to cost and what all we're going to need for our water, because I know that you can't just really throw a blanket system in. Everybody's water's different. So we had them come get water samples and then kind of look at what we need. Well, our water's turning blue, so we got to do something with all our copper lines, because it's not just our copper service line. I'm sure it's the pipes in our house too, and so are the plumbers. So it's not just going to be a small amount for a water treatment system. We have to replace our water heater again because it's contaminated, as well as our interior plumbing and any fixtures that are completely contaminated. So yesterday was very busy, but started off not as awesome as I'd hoped, because I was just hoping they'd say, oh, well, here is this, and this is going to make your water safe to drink and bathe in. And instead I got, well, you got to rip all this out because guess what? It is corroded everywhere. The insides of your interior plumbing are also corroded. And for whatever reason, the phosphates that they're throwing in aren't coating my interior pipes. Otherwise, my water wouldn't be blue still. So, yeah, better get on them taxes.
And what kind of walls do you have in your house? I mean, when they start tearing out the pipes, how do they get to those pipes?
Well, I have a 2-story house, so my wall's got to be opened up. I have 2 bathrooms, so we have to go to the kitchen and then to the downstairs and then up to the upstairs bathroom. My house is 105 years old, almost 106. My walls are plaster. My walls are beautiful, artistic plaster that have not been messed with. it's something that you can't replace. It's not like I want to go throw drywall back up over top of it, but that's what I'm going to have to do. And then hire somebody to do the proper plastering because it's got all the neat designs and all cool stuff in it. And plaster's not exactly that easy to cut into. So I just love the fact that I'm going to have to cut into the history of my house and, you know, replace it with new whatever. I mean, I'm just sitting here going, are you serious? Yeah, so we have to do, and then of course to live through that, we did that with our old house. We did a whole bunch of remodeling, so that was a complete and total pain for how long it lasted to redo a kitchen and a bathroom. And this is 2 stories. We're going to do both bathrooms. And while we're at it, we might as well replace our tubs because they are so stained from whatever's been in the water. There's this like gray film that no matter how much we bleached it, used vinegar, used scrubbing bubbles, it doesn't come off. And so whatever the water has done, just everything's just ruined. So I'm like, oh, good. So in order to be safe, we just have to wipe everything out. Now we know this. A plumber told us this about our house. Why isn't the state realizing we have to do that with the outside plumbing, with the city's plumbing? Just replace it, figure out where those lead lines are, follow the mayor's plan, and make an easier replacement. Rachel Maddow even highlighted it, that it is less expensive, it's faster, it's easier, less destructive for the homeowner. And so let's get them lines replaced because they keep talking about coating, and that's supposed to be an interim thing. Let's make it safer while we're replacing it. But instead, our governor's like, oh, we're just going to coat it. We're going to take what Professor Edwards is saying and run away with it off into the hills and say, we'll coat them, they'll be fine. We'll coat them, they'll be fine. Yeah, no, that's supposed to be a temporary thing to keep it safe in the meantime. And yep, here we are. Hey, today's March 1st. No lead service lines have been pulled up. Again, I reiterated that last night that we came out with the Virginia Tech study September 15th, 2015. It is March 1st, 2016. No replacements have been done. And here we sit. So blue water still coming through my tap. Not bitter or anything.
How are you bathing these days?
Still showering in it. Like snow days, I'll let my kids skip. They stink. Love you.
They're boys, right?
Boys, they just naturally don't smell good. They come out of the shower stinky. But on snow days and on the weekends, I let them skip unless we have something going on. I let them skip showers because they always bring up how bad their hair feels, how bad their skin feels afterwards. And remember, I don't let them take stand-up showers. I don't want to expose them anymore to steam. I don't want it in their mouths, in their eyes, anything like that, because I still don't know what all is in my water. And so, yeah, unfortunately, I get to shower, nice cold shower in the morning. So that way, you know, lower the steam. And so it feels good on sore, swollen muscles when you're developing lupus. Cold showers.
Now you got some Coleman shower kits delivered? Are you able to utilize
and we'll have a little discussion about FedEx. So they tried to ship them to my house, went back to FedEx. I had to pay $85 to have them shipped to City Hall. So I had to wait and finally got them moved. Worked with Karen and some of the people at City Hall to get them moved so we can do an easy distribution to get these out when the blizzard stops. I get a bill today for $280 more because it had to be moved a mile, the 3 pallets. So somebody, you know what? My day's getting less busy because somebody at FedEx is getting an earful. But yeah, I mean, seriously, like they donated this and they spent all this money to donate all these shower. It's not a filter, it's a camping shower. So you'd have to fill it with bottled water or clean water, but you can heat it up if we had sun. It gets heated up by the sun as well, and then hang it over your shower head, and then you can, you know, shower with not Flint water for a day or two, or just it offers an option to not have to have your skin and hair torn up. I had the Weather Channel was here last night and interviewed me before the town hall meeting, and I'm trying to put makeup on and my skin's just falling off my face. So I really, really can't wait for somebody to tell me what all is in our water. I mean, with the water bug looking and talking about the whole paint strippers in there, I'm like, well, that might remove my skin off my face. So I'm just wondering what else is in the water and why is it so bad right now to where I basically want to scratch my arms off as soon as I get out of the shower. So fun. I'm a ray of sunshine today.
You are a ray of sunshine. Let's
So
talk about Friday, and you writing me the little message on
I was,
Facebook saying that you were like beyond happy.
ugh,
How's that?
yeah,
You were
I was
beyond happy.
I was beyond happy. I was unbelievably furious because, I catch wind that, of course, Governor Snyder's here for another interagency meeting and he won't let the media in, which I think is total garbage. There is not one thing that should be under any kind of cover happening. He needs to let the media in so there's full transparency for the citizens, because although while they live stream it, it cuts out, it buffers, there's a lot that's missed. So I would like to have somebody from the media tell me what's going on. Now, realistically, the citizens should be there, and the citizens should be at signings like that. Let me just talk about that right there, that $30 million. Attorney Val Washington has estimated that the citizens of Flint have paid $75 million in illegally raised water and sewer rates, and of course, for the contaminated water. So Governor Snyder says, hey, what I did was I looked at how much water everybody used since April 2015, and I estimate that you could still safely use half of it. You could still flush your toilet. You could still safely do laundry. Wrong. Doing laundry and doing dishes is not safe. The contaminants remain in your clothing, in the cloth. And as it rubs up against your skin, guess what? You're getting re-exposed, especially if you already have rashes. Just come on. So he was like, but seeing as how you could flush your toilets, and I guess that's what we mostly do with our water is flush the toilets. I guess we go to the bathroom a lot. So he said, I am going to credit you back 65% of your water usage. That's it. 65% of your water usage, not your sewer, not your service fees, none of that. Because most people pay $60 a month just to have the pipes come to their house before one drop of water hits. So our service fees are exorbitant. It's ridiculous. Of course, you know that they found out that what we've been screaming all along, we have the highest rates, the highest water and sewer rates in the nation for the lowest quality. So hooray. But because we've been able to flush our toilet safety, let's not talk about the damage that was done to our toilets, to the corroding parts on the insides, to the rest of all of our appliances, like our water heaters. They're going to give us a credit of 65% back of the water use, because that's what, Governor Snyder, who's an expert in water usage and consumption, obviously, he went ahead and said, I'll give you 65% back. However, if you are one of the unfortunate people that live here and that have been paying these ridiculously high bills since April of 2014, and you are behind on your bill, you don't automatically get the credit. You have to go in and make payment arrangements to pay the sewer part of your bill and the rest of the part of your bill before you get any kind of credit. And it's not a refund. It's going to your water bill for future usage. So here we sit.
So they're not going to give you money back. They're just going to give you a credit. This is a $30 million credit towards future water usage.
Exactly.
Not toilet flushing. No toilet flushing here allowed. This is about water usage.
Yes. And so he said, you're going to get the credit in a few weeks. And, what happened if you moved? Guess you're out of luck. And about that 65%, the thing I love about that is our water is not 65% contaminated. It is 100% contaminated. And it has been since they failed their first TTHM test in May of 2014. The water has been contaminated since day one. 100% contaminated. So why we're only getting 65% back? Well, I guess I can't say back. We're getting a 65% credit towards future payments of these 100% contaminated water. It's a slap in the face. And so if you are poor or middle class, which both have blended together here in Flint, and can't afford your bills and haven't been able to pay them because, like my family, we bought our own bottled water for the longest time, and we have to pay for all of our medical care out of our pockets when it comes to our environmental physician, and we've had to buy all these expensive foods to help detox our bodies, we haven't been able to pay the water bill. And then on top of it, those of us who have also stood up and said, making us pay for contaminated water, making the consumers pay for a poisonous product is wrong and stood up for what we thought was right also aren't going to get that credit until we hurry up and catch it up so we can get it. So people who stand up for their families and stand up against what's wrong, and the people that just can't afford the illegally raised rates, yeah. And if you moved away, they said, well, maybe you can apply for a credit or something. Well, if you live in another state, what good's it going to do you? How does that help the fact that you've just spent, you know, a year and a half or longer of your life paying for poison water?
And,
you know,
I mean, I guess the irony here is you're getting a credit not for 100% clean water, you're getting credit for more polluted poisoned water, because they can't guarantee that the water they are going to deliver to you next week, next month, next year, 5 years from now is going to be 100% safe.
And honestly, the consensus of last night, even with some of the experts, is that it's not going to be 100% safe until the pipes are replaced. And it's not just the lead service lines. The plumbers are talking about sponging, which was galvanized pipes, and how the lead and bacteria live in that corrosion. And that's something that Mark Edwards was saying. He was like, Legionella lives and feeds off of iron corrosion. So you're looking at galvanized pipes need to be replaced. Copper pipes, because again, you're leaching another neurotoxin in. So unless you've got PVC, the pipes need to be replaced, and they haven't done it, not a one. So until, I mean, the only person that's got a replaced service line is Leanne Walters, and that was done through the city April of last year. So, you know, we're looking at all these months, and we're looking at all these high tests, and I downloaded the latest EPA test results. There are still people, as of the 26th of February, having 745 parts per billion lead, 3,400 and some parts per billion copper. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, it's not better. I mean, there's a lot of zeros in there, and that's great if we can trust the state's testing, because they're also still testing, the MDEQ is, if we can trust it. But it's not okay, because you never know when one piece of scale, one piece of corrosion chips off and goes through your tap. Because they told us that with children, a piece of lead the size of a grain of salt will give a child lead poisoning. So here we have these pieces of, you know, flakes of corrosion chipping off into people's water. And how do you know they're not drinking that? How do you know that the filter is even stopping anything over 150 parts per billion? You don't. And the fact of the matter is that we shouldn't be forced to live and pay, even with this credit, pay for water that is continuing to poison us. If there's a word past dumber, I got to figure it out. I need to invent a word to explain how stupid this is. You know, I'm like, you know, and also, if you look at how much money that the state has spent on bottled water and these crappy sink filters that we're grateful for, but come on now, you can't bathe in your sink. If you look at that, they could have installed into the 30,000 homes, they could have installed some form of whole home filtration to where people could shower safely. All the money tossed around so far, they could have gotten started on that. So that way, at least that's an immediate fix while the infrastructure is being replaced and identified and studied, because that's what Snyder likes to do. Let me look at this longer. You know, I mean, geez, he's only had since September of last year, really, to come to the, you know, the conclusion that he should probably replace these pipes, you know, are so corroded, people are getting sick. Oh yeah, and then 9 people died. So, you know, there's that. But yeah, so people could have some form of filtration in their home to protect them.
Well, there's 9 people that they can draw a link to have died. There could be lots of people that have died that they have not figured out the cause of death, and it could be from a variety of issues related to the water.
See, and that's the scary part, is that the state never came out and said, hey, everybody, there's an outbreak of Legionnaires. This is what you need to do to avoid it. But also, you know, warn the public so they can protect themselves, but also tell the medical community so they can actually test for that. Because I know the Jay Reynolds, he and Heather's son went to the hospital in July, and it honestly, it all looks like he had Legionnaires. But when they asked about it, because I told him, I was like, you need to get tested for Legionnaires. He's been in the hospital with pneumonia in July for 5 days. I was like, you need to get him tested. So when he asked, they said, well, there's not an outbreak or anything, and you only get that from commercial air conditioners. Had the county health department open their mouth, had the state said something going, hey, we have a huge uptick in all this. And I like their word uptick in this, where it went from, 8 cases to 87, maybe along the lines about halfway through, they could have said something. So then the doctors could be like, we need to test you for this. We need to test you. Because I bet you, had they done that there were a lot more people that passed away and were sick and suffering with Legionnaires. And then who knows what else? That's the biggest, scariest part, is who knows what else? Who knows what else we've ingested we were ingesting for 18 months coming out of the Flint River. And then who knows what else we're getting now. The fact that he's still finding that paint stripper in the water, in the Detroit treated water, that's not awesome. There you go. That's scary. Because who knows what happens when that hits steam? Is that what is eating my skin off my face? I mean, Nair and I sit there and she's just like, well, my face is falling on my shirt again. I'm like, oh, it's falling right off. And yeah, and the fact that I am still sick, still throwing up, still dealing with seizures popping up just at random for fun, still off work. What else? What else is wrong with me? And it would be nice if they would just tell us so I could tell my doctor, okay, here's the things I was exposed to. Let's make a treatment plan. Instead, it's no. Let's just cover this up. It's fine. It's just lead. I mean, it wasn't lead, but I guess we'll agree with you. It is lead. Oh, okay. And then they came out a month ago and said, oh, by the way, there's high copper too. My bad. Oh, and there's that Legionnaires thing. But that's all. We promise. Until the next report comes out. And they're like, oh, okay, so, here's a rare strain of malaria that came out of the mosquitoes that drank from the Flint River, and I don't know. You never know what to expect. And I keep telling myself, especially when the emails came out, and then there's that. When the emails came out, I keep telling myself, don't get mad. You expect this from the state now. You expect it from all these people now. And then I see that where they're actually talking about it long before we were. When they were talking about switching us back in October of 2014, and nobody did anything. I mean, I'm happy to see these emails. Good, great. But, you could have spoke up. Any of these people that thought there was a problem, they could have noticed that their emails were going unanswered and nothing was coming from it. So they should have just been like, all right, I'm going to the news. Let me go to the media here, which I'm sure they would have lost their job. But then there's whistleblower laws, and we got some great attorneys. I know like 30 of them, I'm pretty sure. So I got some awesome attorneys myself. But
you're collecting a lot of attorneys, aren't you?
I am. And now I have a new attorney that is my ghost attorney in case the class action and the NRDC suit ever clash. So now I got another one. He's pretty cool. So they've been extremely helpful. And actually, Val Washington is gonna be representing all of us with the rates lawsuit and getting us actual refunds, and then also damages to the house, because they can replace the service lines, but we still have contaminated pipes inside the house. We shouldn't have to pay for that. I didn't put contaminated water through my property, so I shouldn't have to pay for it. But then there's that common sense thing that. I talked to some people from a different organization, and their focus is corporate accountability. And they're like, well, try to explain this to us because we're lost. I'm like, so first thing you do is you take logic and common sense, throw them out the window. Just throw them out the window, and then follow it up with any empathy and compassion from any of our state government. Keep throwing it out the window, and then we'll start. We'll go from there. That's about it. I'm cranky today.
Well, you've been cranky all week. Every day you wake up and there's something new to get you going.
Yeah. I mean, who needs coffee at this point? I mean, I need Red Bull, but and I don't have any. But yeah, I'll wake up and my phone is just blown up because I have all these notifications, and I go through and start reading it. And I'm laying here, and CBS called me Friday morning, and they're just like, well, can we come to your house? We want to talk about these emails. And I'm like, What emails? And they're like, oh goodness. And I'm like, so then of course I got to read said emails, and I just yelled and screamed and decided that my phone left my hand at a high velocity. I'll tell my husband. So yeah, I threw my phone. I yelled and screamed at it first because no, they knew all of this was going on, and they knew how unsafe it was. They actually said it was scary. and they have family here, and people are like, all right. And then of course, then we get in the afternoon and he signs that bill that's basically going to help people that can afford things and not people who stand up for their rights. So, I mean, again, it is Governor Snyder. He frowns upon those people, definitely frowns upon the poor people, as well as people that stand up against what he's doing.
So what were some of the highlights for you, or the lowlights for you, on the emails that were released on Friday, the 26th?
One of the nice things to see was that it finally came out in email that no, our city council had nothing to do, which we've been yelling and screaming this forever. They did not vote to go to the Flint River. Everybody keeps blaming our city. But then we read in the emails that the Snyder's administration okayed early to point the finger at our Flint city officials. So that's all this whole thing is a PR spin. They're like, oh, we can grab onto this now. We can go ahead and flip this and say the states, the city government did this. They wanted to save money. This is all that. No. They've been saying that, and we've been screaming it's a lie. The city council people have been screaming it's a lie. And here we have emails showing it's a lie, but yet the Snyder administration okayed early with the lying. I mean, seriously now. So, but that's nice because at least that's another, bit of, information for our arsenal, especially our lawsuits, as to, yes, this was done by the state. This was done by the treasurer's office. This was done by the emergency manager. And yet it was still Snyder's emergency managers that listened to our complaints, brushed us off, and ignored us. So that is a direct link to Snyder, because the only person that the emergency manager has to go to and answer to is Snyder. Which then, of course, the whole irritating, I didn't know. There's one of the lowlights. We all know that that's crap. We all know that he, of course, knew. Otherwise, he's the dumbest governor that's ever lived. He's also completely deaf, never goes on the internet, never watches TV, that there was water problems. He didn't know. You just want him to stop lying. Just be like, look, I didn't care about you people, so, I wanted to save some money. Just own it. But that's not going to happen. And then looking at the emails, of course, we don't see any of Snyder's replies. He conveniently changed the FOIA laws to exempt his emails and his communications. But then I get excited because then I talk to my attorneys, and they nailed him with those subpoenas, and he cannot redact his information from subpoenas. So eventually we're going to get to the truth. The hearings. Yes, so the hearings coming up, that's going to be great, the 15th and the 17th. I don't know what I expect out of it. I expect him to lie more, and I expect him to claim stupid, and I expect him to blame our city officials and, of course, everybody else. He fired 2 more people that had nothing to do with what the decisions were made and all that stuff. I mean, that's how he reacts to this crisis. Oh, I'm going to fire some people. I mean, they had nothing to do with it, but, that guy that works at McDonald's, I'll fire him too. It makes no sense. This is actually extremely embarrassing. When people start reading this from other states, I mean, I'm embarrassed that I live here and pay taxes that support these people, So
what questions would you like the senators to ask Snyder at the Oversight Committee on the 17th of March? Do you have a list of questions that you wish that they will ask him?
Well, yeah, I want them to ask him, how in the world do you expect us to believe that you knew nothing? How is it that you are so insulated with people afraid to tell the truth? What kind of culture do you breed in your office to where people feel they cannot come to you? And of course, we don't believe any of that. And I hope they drive that home. And then I hope they just pound and pound and pound him to where he finally breaks down and says, yes, I know. Yes, I did nothing. That's all. I mean, that's it. That's all that there is. I mean, it's been scaled down. And then I want to know why. Why? When people are emailing you and calling your office like we did over and over and over again, going to your office, showing you and your staff these photos, why did you just blow us off like we didn't matter? And who else have you done this to? Because I wonder what other cities are struggling and people are ignoring, like Detroit, obviously Detroit. You know, I mean, why? And how can you sleep at night? And these are questions I'm not going to get answers to.
He says he's kicking himself every day.
Oh, well, can I join into that? You can kick yourself every day because you got caught. That's all. I kick myself every day because I should have fired these people that tell the truth sooner. Actually, I think he's kicking himself for not making the FOIA restrictions even stronger to where they could pull the emails out from his office and his advisors. I think that's what he's kicking himself for. So, yeah. I don't think he feels bad because, again, look at all the stipulations on the $30 million. Look at the fact that we have $2 million out of the 55 that Mayor Weaver has asked for to get started, to get these pipes out. He said he's going to send 2. Look at how many months it's been. And also, I really want them to point out the timeline, little flub there. He keeps saying that as soon as he found out, he switched us back to Detroit. No. A week before that, as soon as he says he found out at the beginning of October, he told us to live with the lead. Run your taps for 5 minutes. Here's some filters and some bottled water. Oh, but we're not sending the bottled water. This is coming from outside donations. Seriously, you know? No, he did not immediately switch us over. After we lost it, and it was a political nightmare for him for a week and a media nightmare because he wasn't going to switch us, then he finally switched us back, said, fine, I'll switch you. So, yeah, you know, it'd be nice to know what good he thought he was doing for us. How did he think he was doing his job for the citizens of Flint or the citizens of Michigan?
He was running the state as a business, right?
Supposedly, but then I'm reading articles now saying that if this were in fact the truth, he would have run this whole entire state or the business he was running into bankruptcy. But I mean, you look at it, he was supposed to be, you know, sending the emergency manager here to Flint to help with the budget. We basically cut off from the Detroit system. We lost $1 million per year in revenue because we used to sell the Detroit water to the county, to Genesee County. But instead, now we have to buy the water from Genesee County because that all changed. They sold off the pipeline, and now Genesee County owns it and can charge us to get the water. So there we lost revenue. And then they allowed GM to pull off and didn't switch our water back, and that was $440,000 a year in revenue. So how is that a good business decision? Also, I can tell you what money they thought they were going to save, the $4 million a year or whatever they keep throwing around saying how much we're going to save. Yeah, you went way past that with the damages. Just in the main breaks alone, the first year there were 400 main breaks from April 2014 until December. There were 400 main breaks, unheard of. And then 2015 was worse. So these decisions he makes, you know, they would have bankrupted a company, and quickly. So yeah, I mean, any financial decision he said he thought was right for the city and state, no. Every single decision he's made has just come back to bite the citizens, not him, but the citizens in the worst of places. So yeah, so apparently he's obviously experienced with running a company into the ground. Ha ha. Yeah, he brought it through the state, and somehow people bought it and believed him that this was the best way. In order to fix a budget problem, we'll suspend democracy. Yeah, that worked out really good for you. And he talks about navigating Detroit through bankruptcy. You put the emergency manager there in Detroit to avoid going to bankruptcy. City still went bankrupt, 44,000 people without water. Highland Park has $11,000 water bills. Great job. So yeah, Sunday, MSNBC had me on, and she surprised me with asking me while we were live what I would say if the governor was on the other side of the camera. Took me a second to gain my composure because we were live and I couldn't say what I would want to say, but I just asked him, I was like, just quit. Just please leave. You know, you are standing in the way of us actually getting help and making change. Just go. Just go. You know, I mean, also, yes, I do want to see him arrested. I do want to see him in jail because I want people everybody, elected officials, business people, citizens of this country to see that no one is exempt from the law. If you poison and kill people, you go to jail. It doesn't matter what your job title is, you go to jail. You know, if I poisoned one person, even if I poisoned one person and they didn't die, you know, yeah, I'd be sitting in court right now getting ready to go to jail if I already wasn't in jail. 100,000 people, 9 people dead that we know of. Nothing. He still gets to go about his day having his fancy birthday parties and, you know, living in his, $2 million condo in Ann Arbor, which I thought was hilarious that Ann Arbor went ahead and decided, you know what, just to be on the safe side, we're going to go ahead and pull out 118 lead service lines. Ann Arbor doesn't have a lead problem, but the governor lives there. They get replaced service lines. We don't, and we have a lead problem. Oh, where's that word that I can't come up with about the dumber? I just can't. You know, I think that's one of the worst parts is that all of the corruption has been so blatant. I don't even know what clever questions that that they can ask. I I don't know, because it's all right there and it's so egotistical and asinine that I don't even know. I don't even think I could come up with a clever question. Just, dude, why haven't you quit yet?
How about the EPA administrator that will also be on the panel?
Now, Gina
McCarthy. Yes,
I
EPA.
have questions for that lady. One, where were you? And you know what? I'm not saying anything bad about the EPA that's here now. I'm glad that they're here helping us now. She didn't show up till the beginning of February. We wrote her and called, especially when we could no longer talk to Miguel, when he got in trouble and went on 5 weeks vacation.
He got in trouble for telling the truth.
Yes, he did. He got in trouble for telling the truth.
For trying to protect the population.
Exactly. And for pointing out that the city and state were in violation. That's hello. That's his job. And so he got in trouble for doing his job, for doing the right thing. What kind of culture are they cultivating in that office? You know, I mean, there's Jennifer Crooks, and she was helping with the cover up. And then you've got, Susan Hedman, who also didn't help. And then we've got Gina McCarthy, who sits there and talks about how heroic it is that Susan Hedman quit. I'm like, why are you still there? Because you know what? We're not the only city that came to you. We're not. And especially the more cities I talk to, like Bridgeton, Missouri. Again, I talk about this all the time because, I mean, there's a dump on fire. That fire is getting awfully close to the underground toxic waste dump for the Manhattan Project. What happens when fire hits that? There's a lot of innocent people that are going to die, that are already sick and dying. 300% increase in childhood cancers. They have been outside of her office. They have begged her for 2 years, Gina McCarthy specifically, to come to Bridgeton and see these sick people. So, you know what they got from her? The same thing that we did. Nothing. So, yeah. Oh, I do have some questions for her because it's her job. Now, again, I will always say, if we want a stronger EPA, a more regulated EPA, we need to stop cutting funding. We actually need to have the proper oversight. So that way you don't have state agencies like the MDEQ running rampant. But I don't believe that was going completely unnoticed. So I think, again, there's several different agencies that need a clean slate. Just wiped clean, new people, start over, that aren't mired down in the politics of it all and that actually just care about the safety and well-being of, the citizens here. Ooh, see, I had questions for her.
Today, EPA is in the news because of the Flint Water Crisis. They are urging the states to find the lead service lines in their communities. Did you happen to see that news?
And the thing is I'm reading this, and what I'm saying is, duh. This is something that should have already been done. If they were enforcing their own lead and copper rule, EPA's lead and copper rule, if they were enforcing it properly, enforcing these states to do this wouldn't even be an article. This wouldn't even be a thing.
Why do you think
we would know where all of our lines were.
Why do you think she's coming out with it now, or the EPA? Why do you think the EPA is coming out with this announcement now?
So the nice part of me that is less cynical is to give a heads up to the other cities that you better start finding your lead service lines and replacing them like you should have been. And it's best that you have them ready so you can replace them, because obviously they're not safe after, decades upon decades. But then the cynical part of me is like, okay, so now they're trying to say that Flint isn't as bad. It's not an uncommon thing. They keep trying to play that off, saying that what happened to us isn't as bad. Look at all these other cities that have higher lead tests, that have higher lead levels and higher lead in the water, which I find it hard to believe. I think it's another way to downplay how bad it actually is here. Again, I hope people take it the right way and find your lead service lines. From what I hear, a lot of cities already know, but that's fine. But yes, find them. Test your water, don't hide your water. And what they should be talking about is those loopholes in the testing, the pre-flush and the smallmouth bottles, the cap on stagnation, those loopholes, as well as many others that we couldn't even fathom. What they should focus on is tightening the lead and copper rules so they wouldn't have to say this. So if the EPA was doing their job this whole time since, 1993, then we wouldn't have to even talk about this. So yeah, they need to enforce their own law to protect the citizens. So yes.
Aren't they talking about raising the limits?
Yes. Yes, there was a work group that actually was trying to loosen the lead and copper rule. I'm blown away because the World Health Organization and all of the pediatric associations, as well as any other doctor you talk to, there's no safe level of lead in the water, in the air, to breathe in for lead dust, as well as in your blood. So the fact that they're going to take it from 15, instead of going down to 10 or less, take it up because they said it would cost the utilities too much money. It's going to cost
the utilities too much money, so they're going to raise the level of lead permissible going into human beings, because it's a budget thing. It's a money thing.
It's always a money thing. Apparently doing the right thing, I don't know, but apparently doing the right thing is too expensive. Because on these
How can they raise the limits? How can they raise the limits?
These work groups are all backed by the utilities and also by the privatized companies, the privatized water companies. They've got money behind it. They throw money towards this. Apparently, this is the beauty of lobbying. I'm just astounded that this is even a thing, because I talked to Yana and she's like, they're actually fighting us. We're trying to tighten the lead and copper rule and they are trying to fight us. They tear her up, and she is a wonderful human being, and she's a doctor. She's PhD. She knows this in and out. She's who helped break the DC lead scandal, and they attack her. So I told her, I was like, whatever you need me for, I will speak up. I will do whatever. We talked about forming a national coalition, whatever you need me to do to help this, to fight this. And so that's why these things need to be, these MidWAC meetings need to be watched, because all of these utility companies are throwing big money to get the lead and copper rule torn apart, to just get it dismissed. It's there to protect all these cities from having a Flint. It's to protect people from getting sick and die. It's to protect the IQ of our nation's children. But it's expensive to replace these lead service lines, so we'd rather put the money towards privatization and, private companies making their profits larger, as opposed to doing what's right for the citizens. So it's that whole profit over people mentality, and look how that turned out. Flint should be a shining example of what a failure that is. I am grumpy.
Do you think the reason why they brought out these letters today is because they're anticipating the oversight committee in 2 weeks?
Yes. I think they didn't.
This is a way for them to say, and this is a way for them to say, hey, we're doing something about it. We heard the people, and we are going to go out into the nation and find those lead service lines. We're going to do our job. See, we're doing our job. You rang our bell. We responded to the bell. You think they heard the bell?
No, they may have heard us knocking. They didn't hear the bell. And if they did, they chose to ignore it. Funny story. When I was going to my first dance in high school, I was waiting on my new boyfriend to come pick me up, and he was waiting outside for a while, ringing the doorbell. My dad's sitting in the living room laughing because he had gone to the basement and disconnected the doorbell. So he was hoping the guy would ring the doorbell. I didn't answer, and he would just leave. So, you know, his teenage daughter wouldn't have to go out. So I'm pretty sure, I think that's what the state government, the governor, the EPA, these agencies have done over the years. They've disconnected our doorbell, so our voices mean nothing. We're painted as crazy, liars, people that you can ignore. You know, oh, I'm just a Flint mom that apparently, according to one of the emails, chewed on my windowsill.
Really? They have that in an email?
That's in an email. That's in an email. One of the PR people from the state, from Governor Snyder's office, said, "Can we send out Habitat for Humanity and make sure that it is actually the water and that there's not a whole bunch of chewed up windowsills out there?"
Now, if they start going into your house and pulling apart your house to get to the pipes, do you think they might find lead paint buried inside your 100-year-old house? Could that be an issue?
You know, I'm not too worried about it because the plaster's been there. It's been there for 100 years, and I don't think they used lead paint 105 years ago. Plus, our house was one of the many homes that were foreclosed upon, and they have to have that checked. And ours did not have lead paint. So other homes possibly that were renovated in maybe in the 70s or 60s or whatever. But our house, I'm not worried about it. Not saying it's not going to be an issue for many other people. So then they've got to worry about lead dust, because now HUD has done a lot in the city as for lead paint abatements, because there's been so many foreclosed homes that have, you know, got picked up land bank. So they have to do that before they can sell it. So I worry about some of the older homes, people who've lived in their homes 50, 60 years. I don't know if they've had their lead paint removed or painted over or sealed off. But that's another thing that we're gonna have to deal with as we go through this, you know, rehabilitation of our infrastructure in our homes. So, you know, let's not get additionally exposed to lead through the paint, through the air and the dust. But for one of Snyder's aides to actually say, like, let's, you know, and this was, I believe it was in December. So after this was all proven that it was the water, for them to still be suggesting that it could possibly be the paint and that we've all chewed on our windowsills, slap in the face. So that's a Free Press article talking about 10 of the more shocking quotes from the emails. So it was infuriating, to say the least.